الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن سيدنا محمدا عبده ورسوله. اللهم صل وسلم وبارك على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه ومن تبعهم إلى يوم الدين. As this theme of talks is, I always pick 10 verses from every juz. And I frankly encourage everybody to pick. I wish the people actually, I was going to tell them this morning, the people who always come to the Fajr and read the Quran, I wish in every session they sit every day, they identify one verse and then they can focus on it and try to, to do tadabbur and understand it. So by the end of the year, they will have 365 verses. And if next year, you will have another one. So if you think about it, the Quran has how many? 6,300 and some verses. It was revealed in 23 years. So even if you pick one verse every week, you still can have to understand all of the Quran in less than 23 years. So people have to just, take it. It's not the large, it's not the amount, it is the quality of it. So so in that today inshallah we'll go through the seventh juz, and this started from Surah Al-Maida verse 82 until Surah Al-Anaam 110. And if you find actually that juz is almost anchor awareness of Allah, that He sees all, He knows all, He owns all. And then all of this is governed by His wisdom, and He also encompasses what's seen and unseen. And then it teaches us that every matter counts. Whatever it is, belief, speech, action, anything, we are held responsible for. So the first verse I look at is this verse, which is the expiation of oaths. People sometimes make an oath, Wallahi, I'll do this. And, oaths has to be taken seriously, and it, when you make an oath, even if you joke, then there is an expiation for it. So what Allah subhanahu said, Allah subhanahu said, لا يؤاخذكم الله باللغو في أيمانكم ولكن يؤاخذكم بما عقدتم الأيمان. That Allah does not take you for unintentional of your oath. Unintentional is not making an oath lying. That's a different sin now. If you lie, if you tell your son, I'm going to take you, to do this place and don't take him, have no intention of doing, you are lying. But sometimes you get angry and you said, Wallahi, I'm not going to watch the TV. Wallahi, I'm not going to buy this from now on. That's an oath that you make. Like somebody upset you and you swear, you say, Wallahi, I'm not going to visit you again. So we do this, and at that moment, you intentionally wants to do it. It is not like just a word that come out of your mouth. No, because you're doing it in an intention. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, if you do this, there is 4 ways to expiate this sin, or what this oath. And there's 3 of them are, you can pick alternatives, but the last one is one that you cannot, you do it if you cannot do the others. What is these 4 things now? The 4 things is فَكَفَّارَتُ, then the expiation for that oath. إِطْعَامُ عَشْرَةِ مَسَاكِينَ, you feeding 10 needy people. من أوسط ما تطعمون, not just to go get a hamburger or whatever. If you eat a big meal, you better give them meal like what you do. If you go spend $50 in a restaurant as your normal meal, that will be the type of money that you spend on them. أو كسوتهم, or they're, dressing them, or they're clothing them. Now, notice the price is feeding 10 is like clothing 10 from what you clothed. You go buy a suit for $300 versus you buy a meal for $25. But, أو كسوتهم أو تحرير رقبة, or freeing a slave. Now we don't have slaves now. But there is people in bondage, people in jail for they bought something and couldn't pay for it. They go in jail. So the tahrir al-raqaba can be extended to actually freeing people in bondage. It's not necessarily since we don't have a slave. And actually being in debt, you're almost enslaved in that regard. أو liberation of a slave, and for him who can afford it, you cannot afford any of these things, then it's fasting for 3 days. And then Allah subhanahu say, ذلك كفارة أيمانكم إذا حلفتم واحفظوا أيمانكم. And this is the expiation of your oath when you swear, but protect your oath. Be careful when you make an oath in this regard. So the four things is feeding a needy, feeding a tin, clothing a tin, or freeing a slave. Now, how are you going to, the value is different, between them. Then the scholar actually came and said, everybody has, since these are three alternatives, you pick the one that you can afford. So for you, might be, for me, might be feeding it in. For you, might be clothing it in, maybe paying, bondage, freeing somebody from bondage. It depends what is your status in this case. But if a person is poor, cannot afford anything, then he can fast the 3 days. So, but now let's be careful here too, that when these things, these kafarat, does not apply to unfulfilled promises or legal obligations. Don't say that, you borrow some money from somebody, you committed to pay it, you said, okay, I'm not going to pay it, but I'm going to fast the 3 days. No. This is different than this. When you have a legal obligation or you make a serious promise, you better fulfill it. As a major sin now in this regard. So, let me see. ولا يخصكم الله باللغو في أيمانكم, that people sometimes make this, without even thinking about it. اللغو, anything that you have no value of it, So, but frankly, although this way, how do you assess you have, because the verse is it, بما عقدتم عليه الإيمان, when you make that thing, are you really serious about it or not? And frankly, sometimes we do this, you get angry, you ask your wife to do something and she keep distracting by the TV. He said, Wallahi, I'm not going to turn, I'm going to break that TV. At that point, that was your intention. So you better now directly go and, expiate that intention, So, or I'm going to break it, yeah, so. Okay, the other one, the second verse I picked, it's a little bit, interesting one. This is related to, this is also Surah Al-Maida, comes in at the end when Sayyidina Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala talks to Sayyidina Isa. And then Allah tells Sayyidina Isa, إِذْ قَالَ اللَّهُ يَا عِيسَى, Isa ibn Maryam. Allah said to Isa ibn Maryam, remember, اذكر نعمتي عليك وعلى ولدك إذ أيدت, and I want to focus on the last part, إذ أيدتك بروح القدس تكلم الناس في المهد وكهلا, the last part, وإذ علمتك الكتابة والحكمة والتوراة والإنجيل. So Allah subhanahu talked to Sayyidina Isa and tell him, think about all of the favor, remember the favor I have done for you and your mother, and I supported you with the Holy Spirit, that you spoke to the people in the cradle and when you were old. وَإِذْ عَلَّمْتُكَ الْكِتَابَ, and then I taught you the book, the wisdom, the Torah, and the Injil. So now you come and say, well, isn't the Torah is a book? The Injil is a book. So what is this first book? علمتك الكتاب والتوراة. So that means that the Torah is a book. Well, Injil is a book, and there is another book, which is the first one. And then when we came, I think in the first Juz, we talk about this one a little bit. We find out even in the Quran and the Kitab, we use the Quran and the Kitab. And then we note in the beginning, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala say, ذَلِكَ الْكِتَابُ لَا رَيْبَ فِيهِ هُدًى لِلْمُتَّقِينَ. That, and Dr. Musanna is here, ذَلِكَ means it referring to something far. It doesn't say هذا الكتاب, about the Quran. ذلك الكتاب, كتاب further يعني from you. It, you know, so it's a book. It's actually this verse, you know, give you like a book that's not physically present for you because you're referring to something that does not exist right now. And he said, this is has guidance, Al-Kitab, has guidance to those who have taqwa. And then comes also in the same Surah Al-Baqarah, comes شهر رمضان الذي أنزل فيه القرآن هدى للناس. That the Quran is guidance to mankind. So what is then, seems like there is difference between this, the kitab that only has guidance to those who have taqwa, and the Quran that has guidance to all people, including the people who have taqwa. So the Quran is universal in that regard, but the kitab is, the guidance from it is only limited to those who have taqwa. Then we find out that also that in there is, you know, there is the sometimes the book and the Quran, the kitab and the Quran comes in the same verse. So let's look here. وما في, and this is for Surah Yunus. وما كان هذا القرآن أن يفترى من دون الله ولكن تصديق الذي بين يديه وتفصيل الكتاب. So, and it's impossible that this Quran could have been devised by anybody other than Allah. It is a confirmation of what was revealed before and its explanation of the book. So here Allah subhanahu refer to the Quran and refer to the book. في سورة الحجر ألف لام را تلك آيات الكتاب وقرآن مبين. These are verses of the book and the clear Quran. So if you look at this, you notice also the kitab comes in the Quran in so many verses, but it seems like it, that all of the rules of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, all aspects, whether social rules, physical rules, rules about, life, everything in a special kitab. So for example, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala comes and says, وَعِنْدَهُ مَفَاتِيحُ الْغَيْبِ لَا يَعْلَمُهَا إِلَّا هُوَ. That Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has all of the keys of the unseen. Nobody knows but He. He knows whatever in the land and the seas. Okay? وَمَا تَسْقُطُ مِنْ وَرَقَةٍ إِلَّا يَعْلَمُهَا وَلَا حَبَّةٍ فِي ظُلُمَاتِ الْأَرْضِ وَلَا رَطْبٍ وَلَا يَابِسٍ. And there is no seed or a grain that in the darkness of the earth or anything fresh or dry that is not, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala say what? That is not recorded in a book. So everything that exists, even a leaf that fall, a seed that exists, it's documented in a book. Then Allah subhanahu also says, في سورة يونس, وما يعزب عن ربك من مثقال ذرة في الأرض ولا في السماء ولا أصغر من ذلك إلا في كتاب مبين. At the same time, there is not even a weight of an atom of dust in the earth or in sky escapes your Lord, escapes Allah, nor anything lesser or greater, but it's written in a clear book, in a book. وما من دابة في الأرض إلا على الله رزقها ويعلم مستقرها ومستودعها كل في كتاب مبين. That there is no moving creature on earth, but its sustenance depends on Allah. He knows where it lives and its final resting place. It is all there in a clear book. So now you notice that there is everything is a book. Now, but there must be, when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says ذَلِكَ الْكِتَابِ, there must be a master book includes all of these books. So, talking about, there is a book in animals, there is a book in plants, there is a book in seeds, there is a book in history, there is a book in, even in whatever it is, on prayer, a book in fasting, there is books. All of these are recorded in books. Now, the Quran include hints to these books. It does not include the details of the books, not all of the details. It's almost the title of the chapters. But who has the master? What is the master book? It's in the Lawh al-Mahfuz. Because if all of revelation comes in as part of the Lawh al-Mahfuz. So now, if you want to access, so Allah hint to everything. When you talk about the heaven, the creation, the heavens and the earth, the sky, talk about, everything that exists in the Quran, that in scientific nature, of political nature, of, all written in books in the Lawh al-Mahfuz. So now in order, but Allah give you hint in it in the Quran. So how are you going to figure it out? Then you have a criteria. Allah have to reveal it to you then. How Allah reveal it to you? If you have taqwa. So when you look at the verses that talk about some of these issues in the universe or in history, Allah give us a hint on it. Give us a little bit description of it. But everything is recorded, the details of it, the rules associated with it as written in a book in the Lawh al-Mahfuz. If you want to know the rules, then you have to have taqwa. And this is why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wa yu'allimukum Allah. See, Allah said in the beginning, ذَلِكَ الْكِتَابُ هُدًى لِلْمُتَّقِينَ. That book, which is the Lawh al-Mahfuz, the master book, is have guidance to those who have taqwa. And the comment said, if you want to learn something from it, then you have to have taqwa. I will teach you when this. And this is why when we go read now, like during Sayyidina Sulaiman, about the teleportation issues, of the throne of Sheba, what he said, قال الذي عنده علم من الكتاب. What is that book? It is from the master book. The how to do it. أنا آتيك به قبل أن يرتد إليك طرفك. So now it also explains something else. يمحو الله ما يشاء ويثبت وعنده أم الكتاب. What does it mean that Allah basically erases what he wills and confirms what he will, and with him is the mother of the book? That when Allah revealed to the different revelations, he could reveal the parts from the master book. But when he come to reveal another revelation, Allah cannot put this part that erases the part that he revealed to other people and put it in another book. So it is not that Allah removes part of the Quran and inform. No, it is Allah here is talking about Allah when Allah erases from the part, the element that he was revealed from the master book to some revelation that might exist in the Torah, but it doesn't exist in the Quran. Allah put it in the Quran, but it is not in the Torah. Allah, because the whole master book is the master, and you come, every revelation has element of it. But obviously, the most element has to be exist in the Fasil, in the final book. So, Wallahu A'lam, yani this is it's just a little bit interesting to look at it, but it also says something. It says, if you're really serious of being understanding the rules of the universe, because how everything we see now, we understand that every law of the universe has been existed from zero time. Allah has it in this master book. All what it is, if you want to predict how hurricanes, where is a hurricane comes from, how a leaf that fall in China affect the hurricane in Houston, or a tornado in Oklahoma. In that case, all of these rules, all of this, information that exists. If this happened, this happened, this happened, this is what will happen. If you do this and this is what's going to happen. But we don't know all of the details. How are you going to figure the details? How are you going to discover it? How you are going to reach to get the Nobel Prize, in this? That you have taqwa of Allah and study the subject. So when Allah give you the hint in the book, there is a reference for that. There is details about this subject, and you can do it. And I wish our kids, they cannot deprive themselves from the opportunity to be the leaders in all subjects, because the Quran, frankly, include all subjects. If you talk about sociology, it is. If you talk about anthropology, it is. If you talk about climatology, it is. If you talk about, physics, it is. If any subject you talk about the military, is this. So, but there Allah put certain rules for it. And it is up to us is to actually discover these, for Allah to teach us the details of the rules. But we have to seek it in this regard. Another verse also about that in the hereafter, truthfulness, being a truthful person, is the one thing that will benefit you. What is going to be beneficial for everybody is his truthfulness. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala say, قال Allah, this is also related, came the end of Sayyidina Isa. قال الله هذا يوم ينفع الصادقين صدقهم. That this day, which is the day of judgment, is the day in which the truthful will profit, will benefit from their truth. And then Allah continue and صدقهم, what is the reward for this صدقهم? جنات تجري من تحتها الأنهار خالدين فيها أبدا رضي الله عنهم ورضوا عنه. So that is the master, the greatest supreme success is that to go to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, a man of truth. And and this is why the Prophet ﷺ emphasized this point. He said that truthfulness leads to righteousness, and righteousness lead to paradise. You know, الصدق يهدي إلى البر والبر يهدي إلى الجنة. And then he said, and the Prophet ﷺ continued and said that a person continue to speak the truth until he is recorded as truthful with Allah. So minor lies should not actually be, Muslims should not, practice even as a joke. It cannot be, And then وَإِنَّ الْكِذْبِ يَهْدِي إِلَى الْفُجُورِ. If a person lies, that leads to wickedness, transgressions. وَإِنَّ الْفُجُورَ يَهْدِي إِلَى الْجَنَّةِ. And al-fujur will lead to the hellfire. And the person continue to lie until Allah write him as a liar, And then the Prophet ﷺ also was asked, can a believer be a coward? He said, yes. Can a believer be a stingy, a miser? He said, yes. But can a believer be a liar? And he said, no. So lying actually is a very difficult, very dangerous disease. And then obviously a liar is a person who also has a sick heart, frankly. And this is why Allah subhanahu also tell us, if you took yanfa, what be beneficial in the hereafter? So here, الصدق ينفع in the day of judgment. The truthfulness is the one that helps you or benefit you. There is another one benefit you, and this is the sound heart. Allah subhanahu يوم لا ينفع مال ولا بنون, that there is neither wealth or son will benefit you or will have value for you, except the one who comes with a sound heart. And frankly, if a person has a sound heart, there is no way he is going to be a liar. So truthfulness flows actually from a sound heart. Another ayah, وَلَهُ مَا سَكَنَ فِي اللَّيْلِ وَالنَّهَارِ وَهُوَ السَّمِيعُ الْعَلِيمُ. That tell you that everything that exists belongs to Allah in Allah's kingdom, belongs to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and He is fully aware of it. He hear it and He see it and He knows it. And the word sakana, it actually has two meaning. It comes to two meaning. It can mean sakana, that means rest, from sukoon. And it also comes sakana from sakina, which is tranquility, that you have sakina. So that means that awareness of Allah give you sakina, also in that from the same verse. But also it says that وَهُوَ السَّمِيعُ الْعَلِيمُ. If you take one name of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and focus on it, as-Sami', the all-hearer, that hears everything. And also you can look at the other name, al-Basir. But here, as-Sami' al-Alim, that He is the one all-hear everything and He knows everything. So if you act with these two names, that Allah knows everything and hears everything and sees everything, frankly, how a person can lie when Allah knows that he is lying? And Allah sees him when he is lying. Allah hears his lies. How can a person do this? And this is why it actually, if you just internalize these things in your heart, you will be the perfect person. In everything, your behavior will be perfect. Whatever you say will be perfect, because you are speaking in front of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and He hears you and sees you. And then also you have to recognize that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He, this is essential. لا تدركه الأبصار وهو يدرك الأبصار وهو اللطيف الخبير. That Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, there is all of us, Allah sees us. We cannot see Him. That's His essence of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But we see Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. His awareness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is based that He sees everybody. Subhanallah. Can you imagine? Allah subhanahu is seeing all of us now and hearing us. Not only hearing us, actually, He knowing every thought that comes in our mind, whatever it's positive or negative. And this is one of the things, that's why even, you always have to do istighfar. We do istighfar to astaghfirullah, astaghfirullah. So I didn't do anything to do istighfar. I didn't say anything bad. I didn't do anything bad. Well, but how about your brain? Did you think of anything negative? And frankly, we probably need to do continuous istighfar because our thoughts, sometimes becomes go wild, in us, and we do it. And yes, we are not acting upon the thought, but we try to suppress it, but we thought of it, and Allah knew that we thought of it. So we have to do this. Another verse, which is also all of these, actually, if you look at every juz, you can pick every verse, but I'm saying, you just try at least the big 10. And this is what I call the test of abundance. We know that this life is a test, is a trial for us. And then sometime Allah tests the people by deprivation, by difficulties. But Allah also sometimes tests the people by abundance, give them everything. And this juz give us this warning about the abundance. Don't think the abundance is good. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, فَلَمَّا نَسُوا مَا ذُكِّرُوا بِهِ فَتَحْنَا عَلَيْهِمْ أَبْوَابَ كُلِّ شَيْءٍ. And then when they forgot what they have been reminded of, about the revelation, about the day of judgment, we opened for them the doors of every good things. So when you look to somebody, he has got so much of it and said, how can he get this? And look what he's doing, what the transgression he doesn't even do this. Don't feel, the verse tell you, yes, that is really the worst situation that person is in. Because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, yeah, when they basically Allah gave up on them, He said, okay, take everything in this life. I'll give you everything that you want in this life. حتى إذا فرحوا بما أوتوا أخذناهم بغتة. And when they become happy with what we give, and we seize them suddenly, they will die suddenly. فإذا هم مبلسون, and they basically are in despair now because there is nothing can help them. And this is why when you look at people, you find out there is a person who's a very righteous person, and he is happy in his life. And you also find a very righteous person, but he is miserable in his life. And you see, a very bad person, disobedient person, and he is very happy. And you see this obedient person, and he is miserable. This is, if you look at people around you, you see this type of things. So how would this come to be? Everything actually, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala described to us the situation of all these four cases in the Quran. If a person is happy, is righteous and happy, it is the Quran tells us, من عمل صالحا من ذكر أو أنثى وهو مؤمن فلنحيينه حياة طيبة. And whoever, a male or female, act righteously, is a believer, a righteous person, and a believer, we will surely make his life good life. So when you see a righteous person in good life, he said, it's expected from it. And then Allah also said, فَمَنِ اتَّبَعَ هُدَيَ فَلَا يَضِلُّ وَلَا يَشْقَى. And whoever follows my guidance, he shall neither go astray, nor he shall be distressed. So in that case, this is a case that, it's obvious. If he's a righteous person, Allah will help him and make him happy. Now, how about the second one? The second one is a one who is righteous, but miserable. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us that now this is a person I want to elevate, testing him to elevate his status. And this is what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says for Surah Al-Baqarah, وَلَا نَبْلُوَنَّكُمْ بِشَيْءٍ مِنَ الْخَوْفِ وَالْجُوعِ وَنَقْصٍ مِنَ الْأَمْوَالِ وَالثَّمَرَاتِ وَالْأَنفُسِ وَالثَّمَرَاتِ وَبَشِّرِ الصَّابِرِينَ. We surely will test you with something of fear, hunger, and loss of wealth and life and the fruits of your labor, but give glad tidings to those who are patient. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants to test you. Okay, are you patient? Are you accepting when I put you in difficulties? Are you now going to basically, because it's easy for me to say, yeah, I'm righteousness when things going good, but if things go bad, would you still stand on the belief, or you start resenting Allah commands, Allah, test for you? How about the ones that who is, disobedience, transgressor, but he is so happy. This was the verse we just, discussed. فلما نسوا ما ذكروا به فتحنا عليهم أبواب كل شيء. This is the worst position a person will be in. That Allah subhanahu, he is a disobedient and Allah give him everything that he wants. That is the worst. That means this ayah applies to him. That فَإِذَا فَرِحُوا بِهَا أَخَذْنَاهُمْ بَغْتَةً. And when they become so happy and pleased, rejoiced with all of what they have, then we'll suddenly seize them and then they will be plunged in despair. How about the fourth one? Who are disobedient and miserable? This goes in two cases. One case is a person who is really deserve punishment. Another case is a person who Allah still have intended to help him and therefore put him in that miserable situation so he can go and repent and go back. So therefore Allah give us two verses. One verse of Surah Taha, وَمَنْ أَعْرَضَ عَنْ ذِكْرِي فَإِنَّ لَهُ مَعِيشَةً ضَنْكَ وَنَحْشُرُهُ يَوْمَ الْقِيَامَةِ أَعْمَى. And whoever turns away from my remembrance, then will be miserable in this life and he will be raised blind in the hereafter. The other condition which Allah can put a person in misery because he wants to correct him, وَلَنُذِيقَ, this is Surah Al-Sajdah, وَلَنُذِيقَنَّهُم مِّنَ الْعَذَابِ الْأَدْنَى دُونَ الْعَذَابِ الْأَكْبَرِ لَعَلَّهُمْ يَرْجِعُونَ. That we will let them taste a lesser punishment in this life before the greater punishment in the hereafter, so that they may return. So it will bring him back in this case. So abundance, without a gratitude, frankly, lead to heedlessness. And it should not be taken when you look at people who are doing all of the injustice in the world and said, boy, look at what they have. That don't think this is something, this is their misery in the hereafter, in that regard. These days you find people come with, it never happened in the past, but these days come people and some come, this world now, we just living in an algorithm simulation. You probably heard this, people come, we are in a digital world, Yeah, we just, this is not a real world. This is an illusion that we live in. So we notice something in the Quran, and this is something Allah said 9 times in the Quran. وهو الذي خلق السماوات والأرض بالحق. ويوم يقول كن فيكون. He is the one who created the heavens and the earth in truth. If you remove the word the truth, let's forget about this, the word that I marked it. وهو الذي خلق السماوات والأرض ويوم يقول كن فيكون. Okay, the verse continue. But why Allah keep repeating with بالحق, in truth, when he talk about it? And that directly, it gets you that tell you this life is real. It's not an illusion, it's not a simulation. This life is real. So those people who come as if, subhanAllah, Allah knows everything, that Allah was knowing that there is people come in later time and they get so excited about this life is a, artificial intelligence and other things, and said this life is just an algorithm, algorithm simulation or some digital simulation. So Allah subhanahu came and said, no, it is not simulation, it's not an illusion, it is real, it is in truth. And this is why Allah subhanahu, وَمَا خَلَقْنَا السَّمَاوَاتِ وَالْأَرْضَ بَيْنَهُمَا بَاطِلًا. Allah subhanahu did not create and the heaven just in vain. It's a real life. And the creation is real, it's meaningful and consequential, And then, it is basically, and this is done based on a divine wisdom, created based on divine, managed based on a divine wisdom, judged based on a divine wisdom. And it's not an illusion for those people who, try to go in the computer area and think, oh yeah, life is just a simulation. Another part of this, this is a set of verses actually, and this is related to Prophet Ibrahim, and tell us that, a person who has this pure fitra, that pure, the innate, pure, the human disposition as Allah created us, not as we corrupted through the society and families and so on. It can lead you directly to the concept of monotheism, to the Tawheed, by itself, without having any revelation. And this is why Allah subhanahu gave us in this juz, the juz of Sayyidina Ibrahim. What he did, he looked, his people used to worship the stars and the moons and things, and he went to idols and a lot of things. And he came and said, he basically made a simple prayer. He looked and said, okay, I don't want to worship. Looked at the stars, and after that, look at the moon, look at the sun, and said, I don't like any of these things. They vanish. And then ended by him saying, after he did this and intellectual analysis by himself, in his own, without having any revelation, then he come and says, إني وجهت وجهي للذي فطر السماوات والأرض حنيفا وأنا من وما أنا من المشركين. That Allah, I turned my face toward him who created the heavens and the earth. Hanifan. Remember we defined the word Hanif before? Hanif is a fitra, inclining to my innate fitra. And I am not one of those people who associate polytheists, associate others with God. So his reflection actually showed that a sincere heart, uncorrupted by customs or pride, then he will recognize the Creator. He will know and believe in Allah directly in this regard, through reason and just observation. Another verse, some people when, particularly in the West or even frankly, even in the East, when you try to advise somebody and try to give guidance to somebody, you find that you get rejection. Okay. Then Allah subhanahu says, when you get rejection, you feel, frankly, when you try to invite a friend or something to Islam and explain Islam to him, and he keep rejecting and arguing against you, you feel upset and distressed. And you said, what's wrong with me? I couldn't articulate the point right, maybe. Maybe it is me who looks down on him. So Allah subhanahu says, comfort this. He comfort the Prophet ﷺ, and by extension, it comfort everybody who engage in deliverance of Jinn. قد نعلم أنه لا يحزنك الذين يقولون. We know that what they say grieves you. فإنهم لا يكذبونك. They do not actually, disbelieve in you, but the wrongdoer rejected the revelation. That ولكن الظالمين بآيات الله يجحدون. So it's not you the problem. It's not you personally that you feel, why you're not believing in me, why they're not accepting my advice. No, it's Allah subhanahu. They rejected Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It doesn't matter who gave it to them. It is not you. So this consoles you. So even if people reject you and you're delivering a message, don't worry about it. You continue delivering the message in that case. So that teaches us, to have patience and endurance. Even sometimes, your family with your kids, you find out sometimes they reject you also, but obviously you have to be telling the truth also. You have to be teaching them the truth, but if I'm talking about, and this is the point, is don't accept that everybody will accept your advice no matter what. But we're talking here about a revelation, basically, talking about delivering a message from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that understood properly in that case. Here is also a big verse that will tell us that you are responsible for yourself. No one will act as your defendant or your lawyer in the hereafter. No sheikh, no wali, no imams, nothing. So you better stand in front, whatever you do, be able to stand in front of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and defend yourself. You cannot tell him, oh, such and such told me this. No, that doesn't work. Such and such will be alone also. He will be judged by himself, whether told the truth or didn't tell the truth. But you are. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَلَقَدْ جِئْتُمُونَ فُرَادًا كَمَا خَلَقْنَاكُمْ أَوَّلَ مَرَّةٍ. That you turn to us alone as we have first created you. وما ما خولناكم وتركتم ما خولناكم وراء ظهوركم, and you have left behind everything we have gave you. And here it said, وَمَا نَرَى مَعَكُمْ شُفَعَاءَكُمْ. We don't see the people you claiming they will intercede in your behalf are here now. الَّذِينَ زَعَمْتُمْ أَنَّهُمْ فِيكُمْ شُرَكَاء. So the question really here becomes important, that you should, whatever you accept, you have to accept it based on conviction, not because of a crowd, because of who said it, because you are going to be held accountable for it. And the way it is to do it, you always have to ask for evidence. Particularly sometimes people ask like a sheikh for a fatwa or something. And first we said nobody can give fatwa. But anyway, give an opinion. You cannot follow an opinion of anybody unless you ask for evidence. Because if you accept it and it is wrong, you are responsible for it. And this is why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, in many verses in the Quran, particularly for kids should not follow the crowd, should not follow. They just said, okay, tell me what is the basis for it? What is the proof that this is good? If I do this, what is the consequences of it? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, هاتوا برهانكم إن كنتم صادقين. And produce your proof if you are truthful. And then هل عندكم من علم تخرجوه لنا? Do you have any knowledge that you can bring forth for us? So that point is that, don't just, and frankly, I do this sometimes. Somebody actually recently sent me a message and said, oh, we heard a friend told me that you spoke about riba. And, can I take a loan, a business loan? So I said, well, I didn't speak about riba. I spoke about the verses in the Quran that has riba. And frankly, how can I be, or not in a business, answer a question about business transaction? You should be the expert in it. So what I'll do, I'll give you the verses in the Quran, the hadith, and you can understand it. It's a couple of pages, and you can make your own decision in that regard, because you know the details of the business transaction. Because frankly, a lot of time people answer a question without knowing the details. This is, we know the riba is haram, but is this business transaction is a ribawi transaction or not? Who knows it? A person who never engaged in business, or a business in the majority of Mamdouh who are in business, so in that case, so they come to ask an ignorant person how to do it. So I said, no, I didn't tell them about this is, this transaction probably or not, but you should make that decision. You are responsible. Frankly, I don't believe these people, if they take this religion seriously, any important question they have, they should be able to answer it themselves. All of what they have to ask for, can you give me the references? Yes, I can assemble for you. You might not have the time, or you might, although it is now easy, frankly. Now you go and say, give me all of the ayat that talk about riba, and then all of the opinion, you can get it easily. But even if you don't, just to always seek this, but never ask a question. If somebody asks you, is buying a house, by mortgage is halal or haram? And you tell you it's haram, or somebody tell you, obviously the people ask you that question always want somebody to tell them it's halal. Okay, nobody ever asks a question. Frankly, have you ever asked somebody a question and wants to get a haram answer? No, he wants somebody to justify his opinion for him. Why? This if you consider, and asking the question is not bad actually, because what happened, you are concerned. The reason why you ask, you're concerned, but you are not going to hang your problem in somebody else. Believe me, it's your problem still. So better people have to ask. If you ask halal or haram, tell him, okay, what's the basis for it? And then if he said haram, because saying something haram is worse than actually saying halal by mistake, by serious study, but making mistake. Because the religion of Islam, the character of religion of Islam, to make things easy for people. It's not unlike other religions, which Allah made it difficult for them because of their transgression. Since this is a universal final religion, Allah subhanahu made it easy. So nobody will have any excuse. If you make things restrictive, then suddenly you are making life miserable for people, and people deviate. And Allah didn't want to do this. For people. So people have to be a little bit careful in that regard. But in the same, it's almost like if you really think seriously about it. Didn't when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tested Sayyidina Adam, he had billions of things he can eat from, and he restricted him one. And that's what the rule of Islam is what? Everything is halal until Allah clearly, unambiguously stated as haram. And they are very few. Therefore, you cannot say halal for anything because by definition, by default, everything is halal. You're looking only for the haram ones. And these are very few. But everything is haram is haram. It reverses the order, in it. The last verse I'll pick for you, which is number 10. This is, when people sometimes get heated, particularly with non-Muslim and so on, people has to be very careful don't to transgress in their discussion with them, that you don't insult their belief. Don't insult whatever they believe, because they will, out of anger, also they can insult what you believe, So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, so Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, who's this here? Okay, I muted him. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, subhanallah, if you look at teaching of the characters, because people sometimes get zealous, particularly if you go to the village or other places, people uneducated sometimes get so excited. ولا تسبوا الذين يدعون من دون الله فيسبوا الله عدوا بغير علم. And don't insult those they call upon beside Allah, lest they insult Allah in their hostility and ignorance. So people have to be careful when they speak to other people, believe in this regard. And this is why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala asks us, when you invite people, you have to have wisdom and and give a good advice. ادعو إلى سبيل ربك بالحكمة والموعظة الحسنة وجادلهم بالتي هي أحسن. And then invite in the way of your Lord with wisdom and good instruction, good dialogue, and argue with them what is the best manner, not the good man. What is the best? So if you are going to choose a word to argue. That's why, frankly, if you look at the debates that sometimes they make between Muslim and non-Muslims, did anybody really convert because of these debates? No. Because you basically, the issue is not to tell them about what good you have, what's your belief. You tell them what is lousy with their belief. As soon as somebody tell you I can sit down today and criticize Egypt and the system in Egypt and everything. But if a non-Egyptian criticize Egypt, oh, I become so supportive of Egypt and defend even the government, which I was, probably, talking against it just a few minutes ago. The same thing here. So people have to know this. When you push the people against something that belongs to them, they will react negatively. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala teaches in that case, be kind, be select the right words, because the objective is not to win the objective is what? To convince them, not to subdue them, because the whole objective is to reach the truth anyway. They are not going to accept the truth if you are being aggressive. So people have to be careful. And this is, subhanAllah, this is a teaching from the Quran, But why we don't just follow the fundamentalists in this regard? So these are the 10 lessons of it. And as I always tell you, if I really would appreciate that if every one of you just to get 5, as you read the Juz, as you read the Quran, just to mark 5 verses. And if you find it, but look at verses also, because people sometimes come and ask me questions about things that I said, okay, if you know the answer, what are you going to do with it? So look to something that you can you enact upon it. It's going to impact your behavior, your action, and so on, and give you a little bit insight. But sometimes there is some issues which, maybe a physicist will be the person who is interested in it, or a chemist will be interested in it, or an engineer will be interested in understanding this detail of that, or anthropologist, because we said the Quran now includes many books, but almost titles of books. And now it's up to the disciplined person to actually go and study it and develop now the knowledge, which is by helping from Allah subhanahu from the master in that regard. اللهم صل وسلم وبارك على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه اللهم اهدنا فيمن هديت، وعافنا فيمن عافيت، وتولنا فيمن توليت، وبارك اللهم لنا فيما أعطيت، وقنا واصرف عنا شر ما قضيت، فإنك يا ربنا تقضي بالحق ولا يقضى عليك. اللهم ادخلنا برحمتك في عبادك الصالحين. اللهم اخرجنا من ظلمات الجهل والوهم إلى نور العلم. اللهم علمنا ما ينفعنا، وانفعنا بما علمتنا، وزدنا علما. اللهم اجعلنا ممن يستمعون القول فيتبعون أحسنه. اللهم اكفنا بحلالك عن حرامك، وبطاعتك عن معصيتك، وبفضلك عمن سواك. اللهم بفضلك ورحمتك أعلي كلمة الحق والدين. اللهم انصر الإسلام وعز المسلمين يا أكرم الأكرمين. Oh Allah, spread your mercy upon us, shower us with your blessings, increase our knowledge, grant us forgiveness, and reward us with the company of the prophets in the Firdaus al-A'la. Oh Allah, purify our hearts, strengthen our faith, increase our knowledge, and make us benefit from what you have taught us. Oh Allah, forgive our parents and all our friends and relatives who have passed away. Oh Allah, make their graves garden from heaven and grant them the Firdaus al-A'la. Oh Allah, we have many of our friends and relatives who are sick. Oh Allah, grant to all of them full and speedy recovery. Oh Allah, guide our children, protect them, and make them righteous. O Allah, grant us the power and the ability that we may be grateful for the favors you have bestowed upon us and our parent, and that we may do righteous deeds that are pleasing to you. O Allah, we seek from you all of the good, whether we know it or we don't. And we seek your refuge from all evil, whether we know it or we don't. O Allah, we seek refuge in you from incapacity, from laziness, from fear, from greed, from poverty, and from the torment of the grave. O Allah, we have many of our brethren who are living under oppression and injustice. O Allah, heal their trauma, protect their helpless, and grant them lasting peace and prosperities. O Allah, we ask with every name you have elected for yourself, that none of us leave this gathering, but his pains have been relieved, his worries have been removed, his debts have been paid, his weaknesses have been concealed, his sins have been forgiven, and his needs have been fulfilled. سبحان الله وبحمده عدد خلقه ورضا نفسه وزنة عرشه ومداد كلماته. سبحان الله وبحمده عدد خلقه ورضا نفسه وزنة عرشه ومداد كلماته. سبحان الله وبحمده عدد خلقه ورضا نفسه وزنة عرشه ومداد كلماته. والعصر إن الإنسان لفي خسر إلا الذين آمنوا وعملوا الصالحات وتواصوا بالحق وتواصوا بالصبر. وآخر دعوانا أن الحمد لله رب العالمين، والصلاة والسلام على خير المرسلين. اللهم صل وسلم وبارك على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه، والسلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.